afternoon. My name is Peter William Caspary. I was born in France in 1810 and reared in and near Paris. When I was 9 years old, my family chose to come to America. However, I would return to France to complete my formal education, and upon graduation would enlist in the French Army. In 1840, when I left the Army, I made my way back to America, coming through the port of New Orleans, and came to the Republic of Texas, where I applied for and received a 300-acre land grant in San Augustine. It was there that I established a mercantile business, opening stores in Nacogdoches, San Augustine, and Shelbyville. Now, it was in Shelbyville that I met my future wife, Martha Paul. Her family had recently come to the Republic from Georgia. Martha and I were married, and our first child, a daughter, was born in the Republic of Texas. However, in 1845, I decided that I would sell my Texas holdings and move to the newly incorporated city of Mansfield, Louisiana. And I was one of the first people to buy a lot within the city limits. You can see my lot, my first purchase was $126. I would establish a mercantile business and trading operation in Mansfield and was quite prosperous. Times were very good at that time. I was able to purchase additional lands and additional spots in and around Mansfield. And Martha and I ended up having a total of 8 children. Now, because I was a merchant and a trader, I had no need for a significant number of slaves, but I did hold a slave or two over the years used as domestic servants. Now, in 1861, when the war between the states broke out, the Confederacy had troops stationed in nearby Shreveport. 2 of the generals were French-speaking, Generals Mouton and Polignac. And so I was pressed into service for the Confederacy to serve as their interpreter. And when Northern troops attempted to take control of the Red River, a major battle was fought just south of the city of Mansfield, and some of it on some farmland that I owned. It was in that battle that my friend General Mouton was killed, and I helped bury him the following days after the battle had ended. Now, my oldest son, Joseph, also enlisted in the Confederacy, joining the 2nd Louisiana Infantry. And that unit was assigned to General Lee's Army of Northern Virginia. And we lost total contact with Joseph and presumed that he had died. However, in 1871, he appeared at home. And we did not initially believe it was truly him, but finally came to believe it. It seems he had been captured, and upon release at the end of the war, had decided to go to sea and earn a living as a sailor. So we were thankful for his safe return. Now, in October of 1874, my beloved wife, Martha, would die, and I buried her in the city cemetery there in Mansfield. I would die 3 months later. So you must be wondering, why am I buried here in Tyler? Well, my son Charles came to Tyler in 1873, worked as a clerk for a few of the local merchants. He met a Sarah Baird, who was a stepdaughter of D.H. Jones. Mr. Jones, an immigrant from England, operated an ironworks here in Tyler, where they made farm implements, plows, and fine carriages. Charles would marry Sarah in May of 1874. So we decided, more than likely because of my health, that we should move the family here. Now, my older daughter, Rosalia, at the time, had already been married. She was married to a man, Madison P. Baker, in Mansfield, but they elected to move with the family. My son-in-law, he was a Confederate veteran as well as a machinist and a carpenter by trade. Charles chose to be a merchant such as I. In fact, here's an ad from an early Tyler directory of his store that was on the south side of the public square. Now Charles also invested in many of Tyler's enterprises at the time. He was a charter shareholder of the newly incorporated Citizens First Bank of Tyler. He invested in the Tyler Tap Railroad, and he also helped with the organization of the Texas Eastern College that was here in the city in the 1880s. Charles went on to be one of Tyler's more prominent citizens of that era, but his greatest success was in real estate and building. Charles built more than a dozen commercial buildings here in Tyler, and perhaps as many as 100 residences. In fact, the area just behind us on the other side of that warehouse, Charles developed in around 1900, and it was known as the Caspary Addition. And a number of the streets were named after family members. Sadly, a number of those streets have been renamed, but some have still around. Charles and Sarah had a number of children. Their oldest daughter, Maud, is actually shown here in a 1885 Tyler Public School photograph, thought to be one of the earliest of a Tyler Public School class. His daughter, Ollie, is shown here on the program of the 1895 Tyler High commencement. Ollie stayed in Tyler, married a man named John Fletcher. They had a daughter, Virginia, who married Thomas Goodwin, and they're buried right where you're standing. Charles also had a young son, Grover Ross Caspary, that passed away at a young age, and he's buried in an old plot to the southeast of us. And two of Rosalia's children also died young, and they're buried right here to my left. Now Rosalia had some children that did survive. One of her daughters, Nettie, actually married a John Burke, and John is also in this same 1885 class picture along with my granddaughter, Mom. Rosalia and her husband stayed in Tyler. They are buried in a plot on the east side of Oakwood Cemetery, along with one of their granddaughters that passed away about the same time Rosalia did. My youngest daughter, Amelia, this is a photograph of Amelia, an older woman. She married a local businessman, William G. Human. Mr. Human served as the city treasurer for a while of Tyler, but made his success in the wholesale grocery business. They had two surviving daughters, but four other children that died at a young age, which was pretty common at that time. And Amelia and her family are buried in a separate plot just on the other side of that large dogwood tree. Now, around 1910, Charles would decide to sell out and move to El Paso, Texas. I had two other sons that spent time briefly in Tyler. William clerked for Elif Albertson, and my youngest, Robert, actually lived with Amelia and her family for a while before moving on to Dallas. But when Charles left, there were really no Casparys left in the community, and the name is no longer well known, if recognized at all. However, Amelia's daughters did stay in the area. Their families stayed in the area, and I still have two great-great-grandsons that call Tyler home, which means that even though I was only here for 3 months, my descendants have been part of this community for over 145 years. Thank you for taking the time to hear my story and learn about the Caspary. Thank y'all for coming out and supporting this historic cemetery. We really appreciate it. And Mr. Caspary was my